Did Valentine Hatfield really play a major role in the death of the McCoy brothers? What events led to the fatal confrontation at the Paw Paw trees? And what was the testimony that was given by Sarah McCoy that could have led to Valentine Hatfield's conviction? All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine for our flight back in time, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger vehicle to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. Quick overview of the McCoy-Hatfield romance. One of the linchpins of the feud has to be the romance that sparked between Rosanna McCoy and Johnson Hatfield. While they never married, Rosanna did run off to live with Johnson at the Hatfield home. When Johnson was 18 years old, he did get into trouble, with a newspaper report saying that he had been indicted 27 times for transporting moonshine whiskey for sale. Pike County, Kentucky Sheriff Joe Radcliffe deputized Talbert McCoy to bring in Johnson Hatfield. When Rosanna learned of this, whether by rumor at the McCoy home or by being caught in the bushes in Hatfield's arms, the story differs with the source material. Rosanna made a midnight ride to alert Aunts Hatfield, who organized a party of men to rescue Johnson from his captors as they were trying to transport him to Pikeville, Kentucky, to face the charges. At gunpoint, the Hatfield clan rescued Johnson and brought him back to West Virginia, where Kentucky had no legal authority or standing. But this will not be the end of this. We will go into more detail about the romance of Johnson and Rosanna and their part of the feud in Chapter 2 of the Hatfield and McCoy Feud, Myths and Legends series. The Fatal Election Day. On August 5, 1882, on Election Day in Kentucky, a deadly mix of contempt and alcohol came together. Before now, there had been raids, kidnappings, and lawsuits that caused the family to despise each other. However, this day, the violence had reached its tipping point. Three McCoy brothers, Tolbert, Farmer, and Bud, got into a drunken argument and brawl with Ellison Hatfield and another brother. It is thought to be Elias Hatfield, but both were brothers of Anderson and Hatfield. We did find an article that called Ellison a deacon, but it did not list the church. It is believed that all of the men got into a heated argument, and Ellison was stabbed 26 times, some in the back, and was killed by a gunshot when he was lying on the ground. Some historians say that Ellison lived for a very short time after this incident. We tend to agree with the historians on this point, as it makes sense with the story going forward. The popular view of the argument is said to have been over the romance of Johnson and Rosanna, that Johnson eventually spurned Rosanna while she was pregnant and married her cousin, Nancy McCoy. That meant that the child of Rosanna and Johnson would have been born out of wedlock, and thus would have caused a huge scandal at that time. It is unknown who said what to whom to start the argument, but it had deadly consequences. The McCoy brothers were arrested by the Hatfield constables and were taken to Pikeville, Kentucky for trial. Aunts Hatfield arranged a large group of followers and forcibly took their McCoy prisoners before they reached Pikeville. Tolbert, Farmer, and Bud were taken by force to West Virginia and tied to Paw Paw trees to await the fate of Ellison Hatfield. When Ellison passed away from his injuries, the three McCoy brothers remained tied to the Paw Paw trees, then shot multiple times by a mob. It is said that the McCoy brothers were riddled with bullets. Now, again, we have a source material from the Sun newspaper that is inconsistent. There are sources close to the time of this event that claim that the McCoy brothers were tied together tightly. that they were then taken to the Paw Paw trees across the Tug River later when the death of Ellison was announced to the mob. The story now varies. Here is where the story goes off into different branches. We were able to find a copy of the complete feud in the newspaper publication called The Sun. This was published in New York City, New York in 1888. Yes, that is 6 years after the event of the Election Day murder of Ellison Hatfield. Before the Hatfield trials, there was not very much that was printed about the conflict between the two families. However, the story that is printed is to be taken with a huge grain of salt, as we have found inconsistencies with it that will be addressed when we read the paper itself in another video. Summing up the account given in The Sun printed on October 7, 1888, Valentine was one of the men that were there the day that the McCoy brothers died. Also, according to this account, Valentine gave the order to open fire twice, but did not shoot anyone. While the McCoy brothers died on the Kentucky side of Tug River, Wall remained on the West Virginia side. After the shooting was finished, Wall acted as justice of the peace, asking all the men to raise their hands and swear to never speak of what happened on that spot on the pain of death. We also have the testimony of Sarah McCoy when she testified about what happened with the death of her sons. Sarah McCoy, quote, "I am the mother of Farmer, Tolbert, and Randolph McCoy. They are dead. They were killed on the night of August 9th, 1882. I saw them on the morning before that at Floyd McCoy's while they were under arrest. I did not see Wall Hatfield there. He was not there. I next saw them on Mate Creek in Logan County, West Virginia, at a schoolhouse. Wall had a double-barrel shot lying across his lap. I was talking, praying, and crying for my boys. While over the mouth of Mate, I heard Wall say that Ellison Hatfield died, that he would shoot the boys as full of holes as the sifter bottom," unquote. So, even though Sarah was not present at the shooting of her sons, she did see them the day before at the home of Floyd McCoy. She went on to state that she saw Valentine Wall Hatfield when she was at Mate Creek, West Virginia. She went on to say that even though she had begged Valentine on behalf of her sons, that he did not listen to her as vengeance was on his mind. Could Valentine Hatfield actually be innocent? We could not find anywhere from any source materials that Valentine Hatfield shot anyone. Nor could we find anywhere other than the Sun newspaper article that Valentine Hatfield ordered the shots fired from across Tug River. So why would he be arrested for this crime? If we take Sarah McCoy at her word, Valentine Hatfield threatened to kill the three brothers. And let's say, just for the sake of argument, that he did so. This does not mean that he actually did anything about those threats. Yes, he was mad, hurt, and in grief over his brother Ellison Hatfield. Anyone would be. This is a time that a lot of threats do get tossed around when this happens. But the truth of the matter was that it is all that it could have been, just trash talk. Saying a thing and doing a thing are completely different from each other. However, if that event does happen, even though you did not participate in it, you still look mighty guilty. The only reason we can find that Valentine Hatfield could have been arrested would have been guilt by association. But even the Sun states that Hatfield was across Tug River at that time of the shooting. So technically, he was not actually present at the exact location of the crime. And there are other sources that state that it was Ants, not Wall, that gave the order to shoot. Now, we are not saying that he could not have been guilty of this crime. We were not sitting in the courtroom, and we did not hear all of the evidence that was given to the jury. And, unfortunately, unlike our other feuds, there were no articles that reported the testimonies given during the trial. While the Hatfield and McCoy court case did go to the Supreme Court of the United States, There was no ruling from that court upon guilt or innocence. But we do have the court case documents from the Mahon versus Polite case to see the rulings whether or not extradition to the state of Kentucky was even legal. So the mystery remains. Was Valentine Hatfield truly guilty of the crime for which he stood trial? In next week's video, we will walk through the arrest, charges, and conviction of Valentine Hatfield and how this case would end up as a Supreme Court case. Thank you. We at Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Appalachian feuds. Don't forget to hit the like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. Be sure to double check that you are subscribed, as some of our viewers are finding that they are no longer subscribed to our channel. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.